Hello everyone, this is Shelly Kemp with Empowering Yourself Through Innovative Practices, EYTIP Self-Empowerment LLC. This is my very first simultaneous blog and podcast, so welcome. I am excited to be here with you today and sharing my story, The Mustard Seed. It's a story about a little girl and the faith of a mustard seed. So let's get started. Before we start with that story, though, I want to tell you a little bit about me. If you haven't read it in my blog, I am a former educator. I had been an educator for 26 years. And the last few years, I was a school administrator. And I'd been working also on my doctorate in education. And I decided to stay home and work on my doctorate for a year. As I'm sitting there, though, I had finished all the coursework years before, and I had finished my oral and written exams. All of that was out of the way. All I had in front of me was my dissertation, and I was 80 pages in. And I'm sitting there, and I'm working on it, and nothing's happening. I became so stuck. But I also lost my passion for education. And I lost my passion for my doctorate. And I'm not a quitter. Boy, I've stuck with a lot of things through the years, but I quit. I was through with education. Children have been my passion, and I still love kids, but doing the education bit, I was done. And I wanted more. So for my 50th birthday, I hired a life coach, and it was awesome. Within a very short amount of time, I found my purpose. I wanted to leave a legacy, and doing what I was doing wasn't getting me there. So she helped me get unstuck. And within a very short amount of time, I started writing my book, which is called Badass Women of the Bible. If you're offended by that, I'm sorry, just deal with it. Take it as it is. And then I started working on creating the blog, and I've had so much fun with that. I like looking at the statistics, and I have people reading my blog all over the world. So welcome. And I want to say howdy from Houston, Texas. This former Okie girl, I'm from Oklahoma originally, is so pleased that you have, wanted to be part of my journey with me. So, welcome. Anyway, to get started with this story, I'd lost my passion and my purpose, and quickly found it with my life coach, and I started the company EYTIP Self-Empowerment LLC, which is an educational career consulting and coaching business. So that all ties in with the blog. It is for future, current, and former educators. If you're a future educator and you're not getting that information from your, let's say your school counselor or, your advisors in college, or maybe you have an alternative certification and you're looking for a path to get into the school system, we'll talk. Just get with me and we'll chat. If you are a current educator and you want to build your way up, or maybe you've had a bad evaluation, again, get in touch with me. I would love to hear from you, and I can give you some advice on how to get where you're going. And then if you were a former educator like me, and you have just, you're looking for a new purpose, you're looking for your legacy, and you want some advice, and you want to look at these packages that I'm throwing together, get in touch with me. We can go through this together, and I have some good advice, and I have some great suggestions. So anyway, let's get started. My story today is about the faith of a mustard seed. Have you ever seen a mustard seed? I have one in this little jar here, this little bottle. And it's teeny tiny. And I lost it. lost my mustard seed. Here it is. Anyway, I told you it was tiny. I'm going to stick it right there, and then I have a picture of it that I'm going to share right about here. Anyway, put this where it's safe, and I'm going to proceed with my story. It's a story of a little girl who had that kind of faith, the faith of a mustard seed. And here's the little girl. 42 years ago, the little girl was 8 years old. She had 2 dogs that she absolutely loved, and they pretty much adored her too. Every morning they'd wake her up, licking and yelping, getting her out of bed. Well, the dogs' names were Brandy and Sassy. A tragedy happened though, and Brandy, unfortunately, was run over by a car and killed. I am not trying to drag you down with this story, but this is the part of the story, and this is part of the girl's motivation. And the other dog, Sassy, was left behind. Well, that little girl poured all of her energy into Sassy. She became obsessed with this dog and keeping her safe. Well, it came to pass that this little girl and her family, it was to her grandparents and her siblings and her mom, bought a little piece of property out in the country, and they were going to move from their small town in Bennington, Oklahoma, out to this little piece of property. They had a house, but they also had a trailer, and they were going to move the trailer to these 2 acres. So the day of the move happened, and they still had things at the other house, to pack up, but they took the trailer to this piece of property. Well, in front of the trailer, it sat back on 2 acres. There was a busy road, and this little girl became concerned for her dog. She was totally freaking out that day that something bad would happen to the dog. And so she carried that dog around with her everywhere. Little white poodle. And the grandmother looks at her and says, "Hey, you need to help. Put that dog down and come and help us." So the little girl, she wants to obey. She wants to help, but she's also worried about the dog. And she gets this really good idea. Hey, why don't I just stick the dog in the trailer, keep her safe, and I can help with the move. So the trailer house, during the move, the glass door, it was a screen door, the glass had broken, and all that was left was the metal. The screen had also fallen out. And it was hot. It was June. And the little girl knew that she couldn't just shut that dog up inside that trailer. There was no air conditioning at the time and no electricity. So she left the wood door open and closed the screen door, because halfway up it was metal. The rest was empty, but halfway up it was metal. And she goes and she joins her family. Well, short time later, she hears that dog crying, and the whole family runs over, and the dog has jumped over the door and down to the ground below and broke her hip. And the back leg was swinging. And this child was so devastated that she, through her actions of trying to protect this dog, has now caused this dog a horrible injury. They had no money left, though. They had used all their money for this move and to buy this piece of property. So they take the dog home to their house in Bennington that was still in the process of being packed up. And they all started looking for change, loose change. They raided all of their sock drawers and collected every penny they could find, and they raided even their granddad's poker money. And they came up with a big container of loose change, and they took that dog to the vet. And the vet looks at the dog and says, "That hip is broke, and I'm probably going to have to amputate." But yeah, you can imagine what that little girl was thinking. But I'm also, right now for the next 3 weeks, we're going to put a brace on it. And so she put the brace on there and she taped it up, and they took the dog home. 3 weeks later, they took the dog back to the vet, and the vet takes the tape off and the brace off, and the hip is still just loose. It's not mended at all. And the vet said, I'm setting the surgery for 2 days. The dog doesn't look like she's in pain, so take her home and bring her back in 2 days and we're going to amputate. Well, that little girl was done when she heard that. She just was beyond being consolable, completely inconsolable. So when she gets back home, she crawls into her granddad's lap and starts crying. And she cries, and she cries, and she cries. And her grandmother comes in, and she has her Bible with her. And she said, I want you to hear something from this Bible. And so the little girl, she raises her head up and she listens. And I'm going to read what the grandmother read to this little girl. It's in Matthew 17, 20. Jesus' disciples were questioning him because he had worked all these miracles. And so they're wondering out loud to him in private, why can't we do this, Lord? And he says to them, because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move and nothing will be impossible for you. And the grandmother looks at the little girl and she says, do you have that kind of faith? The faith of a mustard seed. And this little girl, she is like, that's all it takes? And the grandmother goes, yeah, that's all it takes. And the little girl was like, I have this kind of faith. I have the faith of a mustard seed. And so she gets on her knees and she prays. And they pray for 2 days for this dog to be healed. 2 days later, now nothing's happened in 3 weeks to heal this dog, but 2 days later they take the dog to the vet and the vet says this dog is healed. The vet was amazed. She also took an x-ray and sure enough all the bones had knitted, and she says now this dog will probably have a limp the rest of her life, but this dog is healed. All it took was the faith of a mustard seed. And I'm sure you know that the little girl in this story was me 42 years ago. And that was my little dog. And I caused, through my overprotectiveness, that accident with my dog. But I also experienced this amount of faith. And so this is where my faith comes from. It started with that story. My journey starts with the faith of a mustard seed. And in order to do this create this company that I have and have all the stories that I do have, they all originate from the faith of a mustard seed in a little girl. So I want to hear from you. Be part of this journey with me. I have packages, like I said, that I'm putting together for educators. However, this is for everyone. If you are looking for your purpose and you want to leave a legacy, get in touch with me. I want to hear from you. Let's do this together. Let's have fun and do this together and live a purpose-filled life. You can contact me at EYTIP@selfempowerment.online. That's my email address and it's right below right here. Or you can contact me on my website, which is https with the colon and the slashes, selfempowerment.online. I'm going to do these once a week. I'm going to do 2 blog posts a week. And I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to hearing from you. And in 2 weeks, my younger brother is coming to visit, and he is someone that I'm going to try my best to bring him in here because he is living a purposeful life. He has not 1 career, but 2 careers going on at the same time. He had 2 passions as a child, and he turned both those passions into 2 careers. How many people can say that they found their purpose, and it's more than one, and getting to live the purpose like he is. Wow. So I want you to hear his story, and I hope to goodness he works up the courage to come. He's got courage. He raises boats. So anyway, it's great to sit and talk to you for the first time. I hope that you tune in next week, and we'll talk more about, just living your life purpose.